Hello and welcome to Mass Innovation Nights number 133. My name is Bobby Carlton and I'm the founder of Mass Innovation Nights. Welcome, welcome. Mass Innovation Nights tonight is brought to you by UMass Lowell Research Institute and the SBIR Center of Excellence. Tonight, they are giving away $80,000. That's right. 4 startups will each be receiving $20,000. And if you are a Mass Innovation Nights regular, you probably already know the drill. We are here to help local startups get more visibility for their new products. If you see something cool, what we're asking is that you blog about it, that you tweet about it, that you post about it. And if you do so, please use the hashtag Min133 so we can reshare and retweet you. If you're not into social media, it is quite okay. We still love you. Just tell somebody about the cool products that you see here tonight. Together, we can support local entrepreneurs. Over the last 11 years, we have helped launch more than 1,500 new startups, and those companies have gotten more than $4 billion in funding. So tonight, we have 10 cool new products. There's artificial intelligence, there's robots, there's heavy machinery, so much cool stuff. Each company has its own booth in the expo area. You can actually go and visit those virtual booths at any time and video chat with the companies. Now you can click on the expo tab and you can visit our virtual show floor. We also have a networking function tonight. So click on the networking tab to enter the networking queue and you'll get paired up with somebody else. It's a great way to meet a new person, make new friends. We'll have 2 networking breaks during the program, and you'll also be able to stick around afterward for even more networking. The show will be open until 6 o'clock for additional connection making. And right now you're watching the main stage show. Stick around and you will see all of the startups pitch super fast, going really quickly, and you'll also get to hear from our experts. You can ask questions in the text chat, which is over here, and you can actually hear from the startups and the experts. They are here live to answer your questions. I'd love it if everyone takes a moment right now, chat into the text chat and introduce yourselves. Let us know where you are from. And if you get lost, you can head back to reception and our team will help you there. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Stacy Swider. She is the director of the SBIR Center of Excellence at UMass Lowell.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And welcome everybody to the 2020 20K contest hosted by the UMass Lowell Research Institute located in Lincoln, Massachusetts. The image behind me is a picture of our facility. We are standing up a 19,000 square foot incubator to host DoD facing startups and host pitch days and cooperate with Hanscom Air Force Base here in Massachusetts and all sorts of other DoD partners, including the Navy and the Army. My office at the UMass Lowell Research Institute is an SBIR Center of Excellence. And what we do is we coach teams through their SBIR proposal writing, and then we offer technical and business assistance after they win. And our teams do have a very high win rate, twice the nominal win rate. My background actually is in applied physics, which is how I got into, or I learned how to write SBIR proposals, because I used to do it in a small company where I used to work before I took this role. So I've done it myself and productized, in this case, nuclear detectors from SBIR funding. This 20K contest is funded by the Office of Economic Adjustment, the DoD Office of Economic Adjustment, and we're really pleased to have their support as we have stood up this new incubator and put on this contest. The focus of this contest was SBIR companies that have dual use technologies. And dual use means it works, or it's the technology or the products are useful and similar in both the commercial and the DoD arenas. And it helps the DoD capture really good technology for a really good price, save your tax dollars. We had many applications for this, and tonight you're going to see the semifinalists and a really amazing array of technologies. And these are all Massachusetts companies. One is doing, let me see my notes here, camera to CAD software to capture interior architecture. One is doing industrial actuation that doesn't require hydraulics, so it's an alternative to hydraulics. One's doing very accurate natural language processing. Another is doing AI for command and control. Another is doing ultra lightweight metamaterials. We have one doing novel ion sensors. We have another doing metasurface radar, programmable. Another doing very high, highly effective cooling for high-powered electronics. Another doing data security, containerizing the data. And the final one is doing, in no particular order, is doing no-code robotics. So you are in for a huge treat as we see 1-minute pitches from these companies. The winners were pre-selected by a panel of independent judges, but your voting did help us choose our audience favorites. So those will all be announced after the 1-minute pitches. But first, we're going to kick off with a fireside chat with two amazing people. I was lucky enough to rope in Richard Carlin, Dr. Richard Carlin, who heads up the NavalX effort. And this is, well, I'll let him explain it, but this is a big effort in the Office of Naval Research to accelerate technology and technology capture for the Navy. And the other person we're going to hear from today is on the commercial side, and that's Charlie Hipwood, who runs and is CEO of MassVentures here in Massachusetts. So let's kick it off. Hi, and welcome to our keynote speakers, which we're doing in a fireside chat format. Before we get started, I just want to quickly thank again Mike Gilroy and Matt Stevens at the Office of Economic Adjustment at the Department of Defense, whose funding has made all of this possible. So a lot of thanks out to them. And now we'll get to the really, well, one of the really fun parts of this event, which is listening to Charlie Hipwood of MassVentures and Richard Carlin of the Office of Naval Research talk about what they see as interesting areas or forthcoming areas for investment. First, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Charlie?
Great, thanks, Stacy. As Stacy said, I'm Charlie Hipwood. I'm with MassVentures. I'm the president and CEO. MassVentures is a venture capital firm, but there's a few things that make us unique. One is we've been around for 42 years, so we're one of the oldest and longest running venture capital firms in the world. Two, we were founded by state charter here in Massachusetts. So we were founded by state charter and with state money. Three, we run an evergreen fund, which means we just reinvest the profits of our good investments. So we have to make good investments in order to make future investments. And then in addition to that, we're really a venture development organization in that we work very closely with a lot of early stage companies. We have a grant program for SBIR phase 2 companies based in Massachusetts. We run a grant program in conjunction with the Mass Clean Energy Center for clean energy startups. We run a seed fund in conjunction with the Mass Life Science Center for life science companies in Massachusetts. So really trying to develop organizations from the point they spin out of research institutions all the way through to growth equity investments down the road.
That's fantastic. Rich?
Office of Naval Research. So I had to bring up one thing. So Charlie and I were talking a little before we got on here, and that I love the fact he said 40-something years and in state law. So I'm with the Office of Naval Research. Actually, it was started back in 1946 in U.S. law. So I think we sort of have a lot in common there, just slightly different scale of things. And so what ONR does, if you're not familiar with it, so we fund the S&T components within for the Department of the Navy to provide technology, ultimately to ideally deploy to the fleet. But we also look at a range of different ways in how to accomplish that. And in fact, about 2 years ago, where previously I was the department head for what's called Sea Warfare and Weapons, which looked a lot at ships and submarine platforms and different technologies that went into that. A lot of area in power and energy, in fact, in that particular space. And I was asked to step down, though, and take over a different department called NavalX Accelerator, which is looking at how the processes, not necessarily the specific technologies, but the processes that we can implement to help accelerate technology delivery, and particularly how we leverage against the private sector much better. And so started that about 2 years ago. We have a range of things that we look at, SBIRs, we work with the universities, we work with our own warfare centers, and I have some experience in this space, having helped set up a business accelerator out in the state of Hawaii about 8 years ago now, actually in the clean energy sector. And so if people, it's called the Elemental Accelerator now. So anybody that has interest, they have an annual cycle like most accelerators do. So I would encourage people to take a look at that. And then we have one up in Alaska. If anybody would like to travel to Alaska, you can apply to that and see perhaps you can get into one of their cohorts. And I think I'm looking forward to having like a nice talk with Charlie, kind of expand on our common interests.
Likewise.
That's fantastic. Well, we have such a fantastic array of companies who are semifinalists tonight, and just a huge array of technologies, and their 1-minute pitches are coming right up. The areas that you are investing in right now, what do you see areas that are just interesting or hot?
I'll start. I think we're in a unique time, right? If you asked me this question 6 months ago, the answers may have been different. Although, most venture capitalists kind of look out to the future and try to figure out what the trends are going to be and what you kind of invest around various theses. And there's certainly theses that have developed due to COVID and other things around, remote collaboration, being able to work like this on platforms, things directly related to biotechnology and COVID-related pandemic response. But in general, I think what we're most excited about and what Massachusetts is great in is kind of those game-changing deep tech companies that are trying to solve the biggest problems and trying to solve the problems that matter related to health and wellness and the future of jobs and other things like that. So we're really focused on deep tech areas, whether it's AI, quantum computing, advanced materials, photonics and other areas that Massachusetts happens to be really good at.
Yeah, and I think exactly kind of case for us too, in terms of constantly changing picture. I think everything sees these certain areas do rise to the top and are cross-cutting. But a lot of ways, it's how do you apply a lot of these cross-cutting technologies to the particular applications that the Navy has. And that's where you get to those products, right? And so a great example is there's a large interest in what we term sustainment in the Navy. What that really comes down to is our shipyards, maintenance and modernization. There's a huge backlog and activity there, and you go, well, that sounds kind of mundane. And you go, well, wait a minute, what do you think we're trying to tap into? It's all the modernization that takes place in modern manufacturing today. AI, autonomy, robotics, all those things. And how do we bring those into the Navy? And our challenges can be a little different. The shipyard versus an enclosed automobile factory as Tesla, that's going to be a slightly different challenge. And in fact, if you're interested in that particular area, what you'll see is if you go look, and we had a couple of SBIR topics in that space already, and I think the topic was depot modernization and sustainment or modernization maintenance. It came in the last calls. Those are closed. But what's important is we talked about in there those areas that are of interest, and you will see that a lot of things, I know some of the companies that are going to be speaking today, some of the startups, those areas would fit, your tech would fit well into those areas. You just have to think about how you would apply that in the Navy side. So we look at a large spectrum of technology areas to make those kind of things fit. And so that's really what my job is, to go find those and then impose those processes that I've been working on, and how we apply that to whatever technology is necessary to bring that into the Navy.
You know, I was going to just add on to that, Rich. The you know, we see a lot of, we run a grant program for SBIR phase 2 companies at MassVentures, and we see a ton of applicants who've been funded by the Navy. And it's funny to see that, you know, one in particular jumps to mind. They won 3 phases of our grant program for an additional $800,000 of non-dilutive funding. They originally built a technology that allowed the Navy to keep vegetables and fruit fresher longer on the ships because they had a problem with food rot. And so they developed a air purifier for the Navy to go in the refrigeration units. That has now evolved into an air purifier in high-end refrigerators that you might find in somebody's home. But it's evolved further into this COVID world. I actually connected the company with our local school district, who's going to buy air purifiers for the classrooms because they're killing you know, effectively 99.98% of aerosolized things in the air that replicate SARS-CoV-2. So just this great pipeline of opportunities coming through the Navy that evolve into these great technology companies.
Yeah, and that's a great pivot in the COVID world, actually, in terms of how you take those things and apply. And I should also make a point too, is that when you think about the Navy, everybody goes, oh, it's ships, submarines, aircraft, these. Well, we have installations, and in fact, people look at that. That's where everything gets done. We have installations around the world, and a big push on that over the years has been, it still is, energy resiliency. That's a big part that I played a lot of role in the previous administration, but that has not gone away. Now it's actually come to a much bigger picture, what's called resiliency and sustainment for those installations. Can they stay operational for days at end with no supplies? And so you made me think about that when you talk about just longer food, keeping the food fresher for longer. That applies not the great application on the ships, no question there, but also it applies even in that, which is the installation, which is a direct application of the commercial sector aspects of things. So, and that's kind of where I try to convince some of the people that a lot of things out there, you know, you have to take your mindset off of the Navy's, just these platforms. We are a huge community, and there's tremendous opportunity and spaces for applications.
These are great stories. I see a lot of opportunity in manufacturing 4.0 too, where you see AI taking off more because these are boundary problems. And there's going to be, with COVID, you know, there's talk about resiliency, right? Besides energy, it's that supply chain resiliency, and people are going to start onshoring more and more and more, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, in fact, this is, as you mentioned, supply chain. So that's let's say I'm spending a lot of time on that, working with the Navy right now, especially the resiliency of the supply chain. There's a large activity. I think people know what Congress is up to, but the Navy's been trying to look at its supply chain and how do we shore that up. Resiliency of that is a big topic right now within the Navy.
And I've even seen topics, I think it was from the Army, but in the military, but it's a huge, broader discussion on the medical supply chain as well. Not just PPE, but really purity of materials, verifying that materials at the precursor level are what they say they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I really see and one of the things I kind of wanted to maybe kind of talk to you directly with this chart a little bit too. So one of the things that we kind of look at all the time is the job of like the types of funds that you've overseen for decades, obviously, and how we can form these I'm always a little cautious saying we're going to partner because it's a money thing, right? But how can we work together better? And you know, either it's in parallel pathways to so we can ultimately carry these technology forward for everybody's benefit, for the state's benefits, for the Navy's benefits. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that in terms of the way your fund is handled, and kind of, you may have some familiar with how we do things, but maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think it's something that we give a lot of thought to on our end. I mean, you know, MassVentures is a little bit unique. We're really focused on kind of deep tech type opportunities, and we're not necessarily IRR driven like a lot of venture investors are. So we are in it for the longer haul with a lot of investments. But I think when you look at deep tech, which a lot of the companies, here today are, it requires time, it requires money, it requires expertise. And how do you pull all that together in a way that benefits the entrepreneur? And so it requires private capital like ours. It requires public, non-dilutive funding through government initiatives like the SBIR program and other things. It requires, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has grant programs that supplement these funds. And I look at it as, I love these companies that come to us who are government funded and backed, and there's a initial customer or proof of concept with the government. I think, what I'd like to see more of and what would really work is, how do we take that proof of concept and really focus on commercialization around that? And so it's not just, I know a lot of venture investors are like, oh, well, that's, it's good that the government's a big customer, but it's also a really difficult customer to work with. And how do we make it so that we can diversify across multiple customers in a commercial world? But, MIT coined a term maybe 5 years ago, the innovation orchard. And it really is all about kind of bringing together private capital, public capital, experts, and others to help drive innovation going forward, especially around these bigger challenges, and not just, the next app on your iPhone, basically.
And you actually raise a good point on that, the commercialization side. So I have to admit that, if we're using Department of Navy monies in these cases, that, yeah, you need to have some Navy application, but it doesn't have to be, it can be well after commercialization. And in fact, I mentioned a couple of accelerators that we run. They're focused on commercialization in areas that I just happen to know are of interest to the Navy. And so they kind of do, but that's not that important. So we make those investments with this idea that we want to see that commercialization then move forward. And I say that, it doesn't mean that's how we would do all of our partnerships, because some may be more heavily Navy defense oriented. So maybe there's a different model. But I think we're starting to get people to understand this is that the Department of Defense doesn't have to pay for everything. We can take advantage of what else is being done out there, and everybody actually wins. So maybe that's kind of the going forward concept of people to kind of get that stuff to work together. How can we work together to commercialize those products that we want?
And so let me ask you the opposite question, kind of what can we do better in order to create a stronger partnership with organizations like yourself?
And I'll tell you, we did this a little bit down in Rhode Island, where we kind of came together and said, this is a pretty good example. We said, so what's of interest to the commercial sector and what's of interest to the Navy? Down at, people may know we have a base down in Newport. And turns out maritime composites kind of popped up. So if you're not aware, Rhode Island has a huge maritime composite for its commercial boat industry. And guess what? The Navy has a huge interest in it. And we actually I can talk about, because we ran a competition through challenge.gov on that. And some of the companies that actually wound up getting initial awards had never worked with us before. And so we discovered things that existed literally within 2 or 3 miles of the base that we never knew about that could provide this capability. So I kind of bring that up because I think that's sort of how I like to work at it as well. It's like, what's good for your area? What are those investment space that makes sense? Yes, you want a national and global platform ultimately, but if you want to grow it, it has to start someplace. And so grow it locally, regionally, and then look at that beyond that. I just find that's much more effective, and it's a lot more fun.
It's funny because, I was thinking the theme of this is going to be like the future investment, or what do you guys see in the future? But it's actually coming to, the future is about community, and little is big again. And I think you're right. What everyone's seeing, particularly with tough tech and creating new world-changing technology, a lot of people contribute. The Navy contributes, MassVentures contributes, and universities contribute. And certainly we're building our community here too. So, so that's the future investing, I think, is
Let's hear it.
I'm all
we
in.
have a strong community and mass innovation nights, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
I think Charlie's shown it perfectly works, and we're starting to learn it works. So
Absolutely. Well, I think we're out of time. I could listen to you guys all day. Thank you so much. This was so great to hear your perspective
Yeah, thank you.
from your vantage point.
it's been great. It's been great on this, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the startups.
All
Likewise.
right.
Thanks, Stacy.
Everyone, tune in.
Thanks, Rich.
Next stage.
Thanks.
All right, guys, thank you so much for that fascinating conversation. I love the story about the vegetables, but we are actually right now going to check out the startup pitches. We have 1-minute pitches from all of the companies. And on top of that, Charlie and Rich and Stacy are all here, so you can ask them questions in the text chat. So let's kick off those startup pitches. Thank you.
An ion, a simple charged particle that allows us to manipulate and filter matter, a critical tool for drug discovery, medical imaging, industrial process monitoring, and even monitoring for threats at our borders and ports. Guardian's novel ion detector technology is going to impact all of these markets by changing how detection works. Our first focus is going to be in the vacuum gauge market, a $450 million market where you currently have to use 2 to 3 different tools to do one job of monitoring pressure. Guardian is the world's first detector that will monitor over that entire range at 1,000th of the voltage, 1/10 of the price, and eliminating 2 to 3 different failure modes. Our team has deep expertise in the technology and the development area to tackle this problem, and we've had a number of wins along the way, including a recent NSF Phase 2 for $1 million that comes with $500,000 of non-dilutive matching to any investment round we raise. So if you're looking to work with us, partner with us, or invest, please come reach out to our booth. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Meredith Owen. I'm the head of business development at Southie Autonomy, and we make it easy for anyone to use robots within minutes. Across the Department of Defense, service members in distribution centers and depots spend hours manually packing materials and parts to and from containers. These materials and parts make up kits like unitized group rations, aircraft maintenance kits, medical kits, and many other types that help aid our warfighters. At Southie, we make it easy for any service member to tell a robot to do these packing and kitting tasks. By using a robot, service members can offload these repetitive, time-consuming tasks while they focus on higher priority ones. In addition to save valuable manpower, our solution will help deploy essential materials to our warfighters faster than ever. Stop by our booth, visit us at southie.ai, or shoot us an email to learn more about how our solution works.
Wingbrace is a service-disabled, veteran-owned startup focused on solving mission-critical software and system challenges. America's nuclear forces have a problem. The dozens of systems and thousands of radios that comprise the communications systems that connect our military personnel were mostly designed and built before the 1980s. At Wingbrace, we've developed a way to harness the power of digital engineering to help our strategic forces. Our Nectar solution will help the warfighters and engineers in the United States Air Force to develop models, manage large amounts of data, and analyze systems using machine learning and advanced data management techniques. Through better data management, curation, and analysis, our military will save hundreds of millions of dollars and years of effort. At Wingbrace, we're delivering better outcomes for our clients.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank Mass Innovation Night for allowing RISE to represent ourselves here. The problem is that heavy machinery, original equipment manufacturers, cannot build battery electric heavy-duty machines that are cost-effective. The industry appears to be waiting on better batteries. RISE thinks that the batteries are good enough and that the hydraulic cylinder systems are the #1 problem, because hydraulic systems produce more heat than work. RISE found a new way to produce more work than heat. Rise cylinder will typically use half the energy of hydraulics to raise and recapture half of that energy when lowering. We tested Rise cylinder against the incumbent hydraulic system and measured 2.75 times energy savings, largely due to regenerated energy when lowering. If you are an OEM and you have given up hope for electric heavy machinery, we strongly recommend starting the partnering process with Rise before Rise cylinder becomes the global standard. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to visit my booth.
Jackson is AI for AI, focused on using AI to label data. The heart of AI today are models that use labeled data to learn from. The more high-quality labeled data you have, the better you're able to get highly accurate models. Companies typically have dozens, if not hundreds of workers labeling data manually, and it takes months to produce enough. Meet Jackson. Jackson automates as much of the process as possible. We're currently focused on natural language processing use cases, really anything that's been written or spoken by a human. Text analytics, especially using deep learning, is extremely powerful for use cases ranging from customer service to marketing to risk and compliance. Here's a case study we did with a top 10 retailer. Jackson not only labeled all of their data autonomously, it produced a better training set with a more accurate model. You may find me through our website or email jackson@jackson.ai. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Henriette Fleischmann. I am co-founder and COO of Hoster Labs. Rachel Villalon is my co-founder and CEO and CTO. Hoster Labs' mission, merging intelligence and infrastructure. The US Navy has $1 billion outstanding maintenance backlog. This problem is critical because it impacts our mission readiness in an era of great power competition. A ship interior broadly changes over the time of a mission, and one of the largest drivers for maintenance time is capturing the latest configuration of a ship. That's before actual maintenance work can start, and it takes several weeks. This is expensive, slow, and prone to error when mission readiness is a matter of competitive advantage. Hoster Labs' patented Hopper AI solution enables simple scans captured from LiDAR devices to build a detailed list on interior structures, conditions, materials, and square footage, and converts those into 3D CAD models. Now, a ship maintenance officer can track all changes with a portable device, and when the ship returns for maintenance, the onshore maintenance team has the latest configuration and conditions at hand. We are Hoster Labs, merging intelligence and infrastructure.
I'm Jesse Silverberg, CEO and Research Director here at Multiscale Systems, where we manufacture advanced materials to solve some of manufacturing's toughest problems. Traditionally, material science focuses on molecular engineering, which is slow, expensive, and often has performance trade-offs. At Multiscale Systems, we take a smarter approach and use state-of-the-art computational geometry to develop patterns that we embed into conventional materials. This approach makes our materials lighter, stronger, and more multifunctional, achieving performance improvements at a faster rate, lower cost, and without the trade-offs of traditional material science. We work with our partners to develop new metamaterial geometries that we then integrate into products we manufacture and sell to our customers. By removing roadblocks, we become an essential component of the supply chain and enable further economic growth. If you'd like to see how we're pushing boundaries, visit us in our booth.
Hi, my name is Shahryar and I'm the founder of Notch. At Notch, we make electronically controllable materials called metasurfaces that act like controllable mirrors for radio waves. With our low swap metasurfaces, we can electronically modify any antenna pattern, creating products that range from anti-jamming antennas to stealth fuselages for drones. Our first product is a software-defined antenna for the 772nd Test Wing, funded through an Air Force Phase 2 grant. Commercial uses of this antenna would be as part of an anti-drone system or as a satellite internet ground terminal. Both are markets that are about $6 billion in size today. We've also received 2 Phase 1 grants, one from the Air Force and one from the Army. We were finalists of the Army X-Tech Search 1.0 contest, and we're also part of the Techstars Air Force Accelerator in 2018. We're based out of Cambridge, and our team consists of engineers from MIT and Northeastern, and our advisors have previously sold companies and have worked in venture capital. If you find us interesting, please come and visit us at our expo booth. We look forward to meeting you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sujesh Krishnan with Kinami. Kinami is transforming data resiliency in the private sector and defense by putting security around the data instead of around the devices that contain it. Data is the answer to every question, the fuel of every action, and the target of every bad actor. Data is your most valuable asset, and to extract its value, it needs to be available, used, and shared. IT security today is a patchwork of band-aids, leaving your data exposed. Last year, in the US alone, 15 billion records of data were stolen, costing businesses over $9 million per incident. Our policy-based distributed data platform removes this IT patchwork with an easy-to-use security and auditing solution that enables resilience on any storage device or platform. Whether it's collaboration, remote work, cloud migration, or regulatory compliance, organizations can now be confident in their ability to work with and protect their most valuable asset. Please stop by our booth to learn how you can better protect sensitive data everywhere.
Hello, I'm Bernie from JetCool Technologies, where we're focused on cooling the next generation of electronic devices. You see all around us, devices are getting smaller and more powerful. This isn't just an advanced radar for defense or weather sciences. It's even in mega trends, things like electric vehicles. And that's where our solutions can really help by increasing efficiency and extending vehicle ranges. Our solutions generally offer 10 times better cooling in smaller packages than the competition. So stop by our virtual booth and learn more. Learn how our technology works, investment opportunities, or learn what we're doing today that we think is going to transform the way that designers think about the future of electronics. Thank you.
Winner one, Hostel Labs.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today. My name is Henriette Fleischmann. I am co-founder and CEO of Hostel Labs. Prior to Hostel Labs, I helped large enterprises to solve their problems and completed my MBA at MIT. Where I met my co-founder, Rachel Villan, CEO and CTO. Rachel received her PhD in computer vision and architecture from MIT, a program that only accepts 2 candidates per year. Her work focused on the intersection of AI and architecture, which serves as the foundation for Hostel Labs' mission, merging intelligence and infrastructure. The US Navy has a $1 billion outstanding maintenance backlog. COVID is just adding to the problem. This problem is critical because it impacts our mission readiness, and that in an era of great power competition. A ship interior broadly changes over the time of a mission, and one of the largest drivers of maintenance times is to capture the latest configuration of the ship. And that's before actual maintenance work can start. A process that takes several weeks. It requires an onshore maintenance team to fly out to the ship, to scan the entire ship, and then hand off those scans to CAD specialists to generate the latest configuration. This is expensive, slow, and prone to error, when mission readiness is a matter of competitive advantage. Hostel Labs' patented Hopper AI solution enables simple scans captured from LiDAR devices or simple cameras to build a detailed list on an interior structure's condition, material, square footages. And it converts those into 3D CAD models. Here's how it works. The Navy has sent us an unclassified image. And because it is unclassified and it was sent by email, we just uploaded it into our app. This is demonstrated here. We select the respective image, which is an interior of a ship. And right now, we still need to select a reference measurement to understand the rest of the measurements and build models. We are selecting those little boxes down here. Now this image is uploaded to our Hopper AI algorithm. And then the output is data, those technical drawings, and CAD models importable into different CAD formats. Last but not least, you see down here a wall schedule, which gives you more insights onto the ship walls. Let me just jump back to what that implies for the Navy. You can track remote changes. You can create the latest configurations just from simple images and carryable devices. And we provide a bill of material data to enable 3D printing of parts, as well as predictive and guided maintenance. Now, the ship maintenance officer can track all changes with a portable device. And when the ship returns for maintenance, the onshore maintenance team has the latest configuration and conditions at hand. Hostel Labs saves at least 2 weeks of work per ship. A time saving that becomes essential not just because for financial reasons, but because our safety matters. Our commercial go-to-market is property insurance, where we augment the property claim process. Since our incorporation beginning of this year, we closed 2 major POCs, we won 2 major InsurTech competitions, and we are in the race to become the female founders in InsurTech 2020. And we are collaborating with the US Navy ship supplier on a joint NSRP proposal. We are Hostel Labs, merging intelligence and infrastructure.
Thanks, folks, for Hostel Labs. We just have a couple of questions. First, what CAD model formats does Hostel's program support?
Oh, thank you for this great question. So currently we are supporting Revit models, but we are on a joint NSPR proposal where we actually train on a Siemens CAD model interface.
Okay, fab. And can the app be run from a remote server to meet the USN security requirements?
Yes, absolutely, that is possible. We can provide our software application for remote application setup.
Okay, thanks so much. Remember, folks, if you have any other questions for Hosta, you can meet with them in their expo booth, or you can put your questions in the chat bar to the side. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Winner 2, Notch Technologies.
Hi, my name is Shahryar and I'm the CEO of Notch. The future has drones in it. Drones that take aerial photography, drones that take care of our crops, and even drones that wash our windows. In fact, drones will reinvent existing industries and even create some new ones, sort of like what the internet did for information in the 90s. But there is another future, one that isn't talked about that much. Take, for instance, in 2019, drones dropped bombs on Saudi Aramco's refineries, leading to a disruption of 5% of global daily oil production, and the price of oil futures jumped by 20%. Instead of drones delivering packages on our front doors, swarms of $50 drones would be dropping bombs on spectators at stadiums, or colliding with aircraft at airports, or even dropping weapons to arm convicts at prisons to help them escape. So how do we protect ourselves against such rogue drones? It's quite difficult to shoot down drones with something smaller like, say, a bullet. Very likely you will miss, and you may end up hurting someone. You can make the bullet larger, like use a Hellfire missile, but that costs about $100,000 per missile. You could use Eagles, but they're hard to train, and they may get hurt by the drone's propellers. And then there's a limited number of drones you can catch with nets. In fact, Brendan Groves from the Department of Justice put it best. The ability to spot and take control of a drone found to be operating in an illegal fashion is necessary before commercial drone use can spread. The best solution is to use RF methods to disrupt the GPS and also override the communication system of the drone to move it out of harm's way. An ideal antenna that can accomplish this is one that can electronically steer to track and disrupt the drone, but such systems are complicated, use a lot of power, and are expensive. But that's where Notch comes in. We've invented a new anti-drone antenna system that, when compared to conventional electronically steered antennas, our system is lightweight, uses no power to steer, frequency tunable through a wide range of drone frequencies, software controllable, and can direct 300 watts of energy towards enemy drones. We can achieve this capability because our antenna is constructed using a special material called metasurfaces. These metasurfaces, when turned off, let radio waves pass through them like a piece of glass, and when turned on, reflects the radio waves like a mirror. Notch's metasurface technology is fundamentally a new RF platform technology, with uses in many applications. Take, for instance, the anti-drone antenna is in general a software-defined antenna that can be sold directly to customers across 3 markets that are approximately $6 billion in size. This includes the anti-drone market that is fast-growing at about 29%. Just think, every rooftop of every building in the future will have such a system installed. Then there's the satellite ground user terminals. This is particularly important as companies like SpaceX and Amazon launch their LEO constellations of satellites for space internet. The software-defined antenna can also be repurposed for use as ground control units to control UAVs. Other applications of the metasurface technology that will bring revenue through a combination of direct sales and licensing include anti-jamming GPS antennas, stealthy fuselages for UAVs, and also to harden electronics for CubeSats. Notch has won grants from the Air Force, the Army. We're part of the finals of the Army X Tech Search 1.0 contest, and we were also part of the inaugural Techstars US Accelerator in 2018. Here's our team. We will take 2 questions right now, and we'll answer any additional questions in our booth.
Hi, sure. So just a couple of questions for Notch. Has your metaservice tech been tested and validated by a third party?
Yes, actually, Air Force Research Laboratory tested our technology.
Okay, great. And what are the ranges and frequencies that this can operate at?
Yeah, we've designed metasurfaces that operate at L, S, and X band, and we're also working on designs that go up to KU band.
Great, thanks. Remember, folks, if you have any other additional questions for Notch, you can ask your questions over in their booth, or you can ask questions in the chat bar to your side. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Winner 3, Southie Autonomy.
Hi, I'm Rahul Chupakati. I'm the CEO of Southie Autonomy, and we make a magic wand for robot arms that lets anyone retask a robot on the fly. So if you run a distribution center or a factory, you still have people at the ends of your line doing work like this. And between the gig economy, 200% turnover, and unreliable temp labor, you're going to have a hard time finding enough workers. This is ripe for automation. However, consumers are asking for more and more personalized goods. This means smaller volumes, and robots do not scale at smaller volumes. In fact, it costs 5 times the price of the robot just to get to do one task over and over again, let alone many tasks. This isn't driven by hardware, but by non-recurring engineering costs, where you're going to get an expert who's going to design and build a complex work cell and then painstakingly program it just to do one task over and over again. We need a paradigm shift. So what Southie does is we change the cost model. We eliminate the need for programming and we reduce how much engineering goes into any work cell. That means you can reuse your hardware, get ROI, and let anyone on the floor repurpose the robot. So let's see this in action. This is Lisa, and until 10 minutes before this video was taken, she had never even seen a robot before or been next to one. She's going to get this robot to do a material handling task called kitting, where she's going to take different products like shampoo bottles and soap boxes and package them into a new box to create a new product. So our system knows it's doing kitting, but it doesn't know what objects there are, where they are, and how they're going to be kitted or where they're going to be kitted. And that's what Lisa does with the wand and the augmented reality display. So no goggles, no keyboard, no mouse, no engineering, and no code. Once she's done, our proprietary software will then figure out how the robot should move to actually get this job done. So that means, how do I move without hitting anything? How is it going to pick things up? And how is it going to place it into the box? Now, our software is robot agnostic, and we deliver it on a subscription basis as part of our full robotic solution using off-the-shelf robotic components. To give you a point of comparison, our co-founder, Jay, he's an expert at programming robots, and it took him almost 2 hours using the latest, greatest vision-guided robot software, whereas Lisa, using our software, does it in less than 2 minutes. Now, our market focus is around material handling, which is a huge market. So we're going to focus around verticals where there's a pain point around staffing and where tasks change on a daily basis. So you can't use traditional automation. So this is consumer packs, healthcare kits at the end of the line, and factory logistics at the beginning of the line. We're getting in parts and feeding the line. These are all large and growing markets. Now, we've been getting some great recognition from the broader automation community, and we feel like this is a function of solving the right problem at the right time. Hardware and computer vision are commoditizing, but integration costs are still the long pole in the tent, and Southie takes a big whack at that. And this is translating into traction. So we're generating revenue with land and expand opportunities, like a Fortune 500 company who wants us to help them automate promotional packs. Now, these are their fastest moving products, but the ones with the lowest margin because of added manual assembly costs. So we're helping them automate. Our solution is on the factory floor today at our automotive customer, and we're under a contract with the Air Force to help apply our technology to DoD logistics at superports. Our advantage is that we let anyone retask a robot in less than 10 minutes, anyone on the floor at any level. And we can guarantee ROI with daily task changeovers. No one else on the market can offer that. Our team's made up of experts both in the technical as well as the business side of robotics. We live and breathe robots, and we cut our teeth building autonomous systems for the defense industry, like DARPA and the Navy. So we're Southie Autonomy. We make on-the-fly robot retasking easy and affordable for everyone. Please reach out via LinkedIn or give me a call. I'd love to continue the conversation. Thank you.
And that was great. Let's turn to our audience and answer a few questions. We already have one here in the text chat. So the first question is, what's included in your solution?
Yeah, so our solution is a full solution that you can install on your floor, distribution center floor. It includes a robot, the end effector, kind of a hand. It'll include our AR type of interface, so it's a projector and a 3D camera, and then our computer with all our software on it. And that will just be delivered to you as one whole thing. You can put it in any location in your factory.
Great. And we have one more question here. What kind of objects can the robot pick up?
Yeah, so we can pick up any objects that any robotic arm that you could buy off the shelf can pick up. So we are robot agnostic. You can use any type of industrial or collaborative robot, and then you can use any kind of end effector that you want. So it could be a vacuum or a 2-finger gripper or a soft gripper. And so really the amount of and types of objects that we can handle are really just whatever you can buy off the shelf for hands.
Great. And folks, if you have any other questions, you can drop them into the text chat, or you can go and visit Southie, or actually you can visit the Southie Expo booth. So thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks.
Winner 4, JetCool.
Good afternoon, I'm Barney from JetCool, telling you a little bit more about what we're doing here at JetCool. So, today's electronics are getting smaller, lighter, and more powerful. But the cooling solutions just really haven't kept up. I think this becomes very obvious when we look at things like this. This is a computer circuit board, right? On the circuit board is a processor. That processor is probably about the size of a quarter. And attached to it is that giant monstrosity of a heatsink. You see, as devices are getting smaller and more powerful, the cooling solutions haven't kept up, and as a result, they're getting larger and larger. And this is really because there haven't been any meaningful cooling innovations in the past 20 years. So I think the natural application of this that comes to mind is probably in things like defense. There are a lot of high-power electronics used in defense applications, of course. One is military radar. Phased array radar is one of the newer technologies, I guess, of military radar. Commonly used in ships, aircraft, satellites, things like that. But you see, they really want your radar phased array to be more portable. That is, they want them to be smaller. They want them to be lighter. And they also want them to be more powerful. Seems like kind of a common theme. This picture here just happens to be, I think it's USS Lake Erie. If you see kind of all these shaped flat areas like this, these are phased array antennas. That's typically what we're talking about here. And while I guess most people probably wouldn't be surprised that there are cooling challenges in defense applications, what if I told you that defense is actually not the biggest application that has cooling challenges? In fact, it's probably things like electric vehicles. Now, I think most people realize that electric vehicles are powered by batteries. But in between the battery and the wheel is something called the power inverter. Power inverters are small modules. They're about the size of a loaf of bread. And they have a bunch of semiconductor chips inside of them. Inverters have really important jobs. They take all of the power from the battery and convert it to be useful for the wheels. So they see all of the power that's driving the car. And in some cases, that's up to 1,000 amps. So they get very, very hot. Now, car makers can extend range of their vehicles by doing a few different things. You can do more efficient batteries, different battery technologies, make them bigger, I don't know. But one other thing that they can do is that they can make their inverters smaller, lighter, and more powerful. And more powerful is a big one because more powerful inverters means that you can use fewer semiconductor chips, which is great because they're expensive. It also means that they're more efficient because you don't have to split the current up as many ways to different chips. And that helps maintain the efficiency of your battery in your vehicle, extending range. Power inverters, typically if you look inside of an electric vehicle somewhere up near the wheels. So at JetCool, we're building thermal solutions that have 10 times better cooling. We do that through a variety of ways with better fluid dynamics and better architectures. And as a result, the solutions are also lighter weight. In fact, sometimes up to 90% lighter weight, which has gotten us recognized by a few industry authorities, people like IEEE, Microwave Journal, Society of Mechanical Engineers. But one is near and dear to us. You see, we're actually Mass Innovation Night veterans. And just a month after launching JetCool last year, we participated in Mass Innovation Night number 124 and took home the Audience Choice Award. So Mass Innovation Night is really near and dear to us, and it brings back memories of the early days of JetCool, even though we're still only a year or so old. So with that, I thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in, and thanks again to Mass Innovation Nights and UMass Lowell for having us at this event. And if you're curious to learn more, stop by and check out our virtual booth.
Thanks, Bernie. Just two questions now for you really quick. Besides power inverters, do your solutions cool other parts of electric vehicles?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. So I think most folks are typically interested in things like battery cooling. And that's not an area where we've ventured into just yet. We're really focused on the power inverters as kind of the highest power components. I would say that there's possibilities that spreads into things like infotainment, as we see more and more infotainment going into vehicles, more Internet of Things and connectivity. Those are areas that I think could be a fit for us. We'll see how that develops, but I would say that those are probably more likely than battery cooling. Great, thanks.
And how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your business?
Yeah. I would say, like everybody else, it's forced us to be more dynamic, more adaptable. Specifically in some of the markets that we work in, defense and electric vehicles, I would say those have been affected differently. Defense has actually stayed pretty solid as part of our business. Electric vehicles was a notable softening back in the days of March and April. I think as people kind of reacted and tried to figure out what COVID was going to mean for the world, really. But we're starting to see signs now that that's changing, and we're optimistic that we're on the rebound, at least from the business side in electric vehicle space.
Great, thank you. Again, folks, you can visit JetCool in their expo booth if you have any other questions, or if you have more questions here, you can put those in the chat. Bernie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now for our audience choice winners, Jackson AI and Konami.
Hello, everyone. Jackson is AI for AI, focused on using AI to label data so humans don't have to. The heart of AI today are models that use labeled data to learn from. The more high-quality labeled data you have, the better you're able to get highly accurate models. Companies have dozens, if not hundreds of workers labeling data, and they're doing it manually, one at a time. It takes months to produce enough to properly train a machine learning model. It's the biggest bottleneck in the process today. Meet Jackson. Jackson automates as much of the process as possible. We're currently focused on natural language processing use cases, really anything that's been written or spoken by a human, such as call logs, chat logs, emails, social media, etc. Raw text comes into an assembly line that adjusts to the domain-specific data. Then, through a series of algorithms and an iterative cycle of human input, Jackson autonomously outputs training data, labeled and curated. Humans simply can't compete. Not only are the human labelers slow and costly, they're not very accurate. We typically see the labeled data sets coming in from the human shops in the mid-70s to low 80s of accuracy. That means models are being trained on an inherently flawed starting point, which is why many fail in production. Text analytics, especially using deep learning, is extremely powerful for use cases ranging from customer service to marketing and sales, ever more importantly, risk and compliance. Jackson can also help fill in the gaps for robotic process automation systems, for example, claims adjudication or triaging trouble tickets, and actually how Jackson was born, powering chatbots. Here's a case study we did with a top 10 retailer, one of our first customers. They had 400,000 return comments that their human labeling team took 200 man weeks to deliver. With just a couple weeks of man time, Jackson not only labeled all their data autonomously, it ended up taking less than an hour. It produced a better training set that produced a more accurate model as well. Look at this lift chart showing a before, the pink line here, and an after, the blue line, of a model being trained on Jackson. An important point that illustrates this value here is deciding what examples to use for the training set. You want to remove the ambiguous or misleading examples altogether. Jackson's being used by companies large and smalls across verticals ranging from e-commerce to banking, financial services, and insurance. We're also working with the US Department of Defense on intelligence-related applications. Jackson's speed and accuracy are attractive to any team trying to amplify their machine learning efforts, making data science exponentially more productive. The best fit is with companies that are or want to be in a position where they're building and training their own models using their own data. Jackson is deployed on companies' own infrastructure behind their firewalls, whether that means it's on-prem or in a private cloud. And companies are able to not only keep that security, but they can keep building up their AI artifacts and have a platform by which data science teams can reuse those AI artifacts, and you have more transparency into the whole process. Look forward to exploring fit with any and all of you. You may find me through our website, jackson.ai, or email jackson@jackson.ai. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Remember, you can contact folks from Jackson over at their booth in the Expo Center, or you can ask questions in the screen chat now. Scott, just a couple questions. For Jackson, who does Jackson compete with?
Well, we are pitted up, usually up against these human labeling shops, and it's a multi-billion-dollar market. Just for text, it's a little over $1 billion market. Actually, I have a competitive landscape here that I put together. So on the left-hand side here, these are all those labeling shops, and some of them are publicly traded like Appen. Others have just raised a bit of capital. Scale, actually, is one of the darlings in the space. They raised 100 million, but they are all still just using humans behind the scenes.
Great, thanks. And what's your vision for Jackson beyond data labeling?
So as I was alluding to toward the end of my presentation there, we have the ability to store up these AI artifacts. That's the models, the data sets, the label data, and any heuristics that may have been written by subject matter experts. And actually, let me just skip ahead to this slide here. We have a patent pending on this technique where we can pool all of these artifacts. And when you have a tangential use case, you can let Jackson recommend what artifacts are actually going to be impactful for that training set. This really cuts down a lot of the time that data scientists are spending right now on the collection process, as well as the training process. So we think this is going to be a huge, unique aspect of what Jackson is going to be.
Awesome, thank you. Remember, if you have any other questions for Jackson, you can ask the questions in the chat bar right now, or you can contact them at their expo booth, or you can get informed on what they're up to by clicking the I'm interested button on their booth. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sajesh Krishnan with Kinami. I'm joined here by my colleagues Jim Burke and Chris Chandler, and we're here to tell you a little bit about what we're up to at Kinami. Kinami is a cybersecurity company with a distributed data platform that helps organizations to protect highly sensitive data everywhere. IT security today is a patchwork of band-aids. When we first started sharing data, we didn't want to lose it, and so we put in place data protection. Then we wanted it available all the time, so we got data availability. But the bad guys started going after all this data, and so we put in place data security. Now we have this complete mess that we call IT security. Data breaches as a consequence are growing exponentially. The chart on the left shows insurance claims that have been filed due to data breaches and other cyber incidents. Over the last decade, these have grown exponentially. And these data breaches have some significant costs for businesses, both from a financial perspective, but also from a regulatory compliance and a reputational perspective. Regulated industries in healthcare, financial services, etc., tend to be hit the most. The new world we live in with remote work, that's a result of COVID-19 and the pandemic, as well as the increasingly distributed environment that we have with 5G, Internet of Things, cloud, etc., only go to make these issues worse. Our solution to this problem is an integrated security and storage platform called AmiShare. AmiShare can be used for a variety of applications. The first is around secure information exchange, both within organizations as well as with external partners, to help secure this new world of remote work where employees might be on unsecure networks, unsecure devices, using and working with highly sensitive information. Thirdly, around regulatory compliance, especially with the growth of regimes like GDPR and other data protection rules that are being set up all over the world. And lastly, but not the least, cloud security and cloud migration, especially in this new world where most organizations are moving to either fully cloud or hybrid cloud environments. The way AmiShare works is very simple. Any data that's stored within the AmiShare environment is first broken up into small pieces. These pieces are then all individually encrypted. And then those encrypted pieces are all distributed around a network according to IT policy. These pieces can be stored on the cloud, on servers on-prem, on endpoint devices like laptops, desktops, phones, even removable disks, as well as Internet of Things and sensors. The benefit of moving all of these data and distributing it around is the fact that when attackers come in to try to get this data, there's no single point of failure anymore. The attacker will have to go in and break into every single device, decrypt every single fragment individually to get access to information, a monumentally more difficult task than with a single central server. All of this information and security system is complemented with a real-time auditing system that tracks very closely user access and keeps track of who's accessing what information where, providing much more proactive threat detection. Kinami is active both in the commercial and the government sectors. So on the commercial side, we're actively in pilots right now in the legal sector, working with document management platforms that are looking to provide better end-to-end security for lawyers and other corporate counsel that are dealing with highly sensitive data for their customers. We're doing some pilots with the US Air Force, as well as in discussions with the US Army, as well as the Special Operations Command. This is Kinami in a nutshell. We look forward to speaking with you at our virtual booth and learning about how we can help you solve some of your data security challenges. Also hit us up with questions on the chat box. And you have our information here. Feel free to reach out and we look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.
Great. That was terrific. So I'm glad you brought your co-founders with you. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what separates AmiShare from other security solutions and why it's important?
Certainly. So the really interesting thing about AmiShare is how it's designed to avoid this patchwork that Sajesh was talking about. The evolved patchwork of first data protection, then data availability, and finally data security is very difficult for organizations to assess and to decide whether or not there are any gaps in their coverage. And as we know, once you've leaked some privacy, you can't get it back again. So with data security, you actually have to try and prevent the problem from happening up front. Kinami, on the other hand, we try to address all three problems together in a holistic solution, AmiShare, and with a unified security model, so that now people can be confident that there are no gaps in the coverage. And the nice thing here is that AmiShare works and is designed for devices, any kind of device, as Sajeesh mentioned, laptops, desktops, servers, cloud service, removable disks, IoT devices, anything. Thank you.
And Jim, can you tell us and perhaps share some specific use cases where your solutions capabilities deliver value to your customers?
Yeah, absolutely, Bobby. So we have a lot of different use cases, but if I had to pick one that I'd like to focus on, it would be our work with the SBIR program and specifically with the US Air Force in their mission partner environment. The problem that the mission partner environment faces is, how do they engage and work with sharing information with their 45,000 different mission partners on a global scale? It's made difficult because there is no single worldwide security solution that can handle this, and more than ever, they need to work with more data and more groups, and also with the varying degrees of trust with all those different groups. So what they have done to address it is they've built this patchwork of the problem that we're looking to solve. So they have separate networks, they have separate storage, they have separate hardware and software components that make up this patchwork. And all of this has absolutely made an administrative nightmare for the mission partner environment admins. So, what our solution does, the value that we bring, and specifically to MPE, is that, first of all, we can save them money. We can bring cost savings by removing all this excess hardware and software need, because we can bring it all under one hood with our software solution. Two is that there's a lot of errors. This is a very error-prone system, human error. We can remove that problem with data leakage. And all of this comes with increased security capabilities around all this with our audit system. And so this is just one example in the DoD. We have many others. The Army Corps of Engineers is another classic example where they have to work with a variety of contractors and suppliers and consultants on projects across the globe. And how do they really engage and share information effectively with them? So that's the value that our solution brings, and want everybody to come by the booth or give us questions in chat so we can help you with your security journey with your data.
Great. Thank you, all three of you. And again, folks, if you have additional questions, you can put those in the text chat, or you can visit the Konami booth in the expo. Thanks again, and we'll move on to our next presentation.
Wow, what a fantastic event. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending and listening to all of these great pitches. Thank you to Mass Innovation Nights for helping us put this all together. Thank you to Rich Carlin and Charlie Hipwood for sharing your knowledge about the future and where investments are going. Thank you to all the winners and semifinalists: Hosta, Notch, Southie, JetCool, Jackson, Konami, Wingbrace, Guardian, Rise Robotics, and Multiscale. Thank you so much. Be sure to visit their booths before you go. You can find me on LinkedIn or on our company website. If you go through the university, you'll find that. And we have a booth as well where you can connect. So looking forward to hearing from you all. Thanks again.
Great job, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out tonight to help support local startups and entrepreneurs. The event will stay open for networking until 6 o'clock. So if you haven't done so already, please visit the booths, connect with the entrepreneurs, check out the networking. Have a great night, everybody.